All right. So as everybody except Cody has already heard, we're going to be talking about sleep today and pretty much how that affects your body's ability to lose fat. I was hoping Cody would be on this call today because sleep and stress is something that is his. I don't know if kryptonite is the right word. I'm not too up to par with the Superman or whatever type stuff, but if it's something that's going to stop Cody, it's sleep and stress level. So I was glad that he was able to hop on today too. So pretty much, this is one of the most overlooked factors that a lot of people just disregard. They think, okay, well, as long as my diet is on point and my workouts are good, like, everything else should fall in place, right? Well, to an extent, yes, but sleep is uber important. If you don't recover, then you don't build upon what you've just done in the gym and the consistency that you had inside of the kitchen as well too. So sleep just isn't for recharging. I mean, it plays a huge role in almost everything that we do, things from hormones, metabolism, your appetite, obviously your energy levels. This stuff all directly impacts how well that your body is just able to lose fat at the end of the day. If you don't sleep well, if you sleep 2 hours a night, 3 hours a night, your body's just not going to recover. Um, and so, kind of as we go through this, I want to kind of tie all this in together and make you understand of how important sleep really is, and why it's super important to get not just hours of sleep, but gets hopefully good quality of sleep as well too. So one of the key mechanisms for us that determines um, fat loss via the sleep pathway is hormone regulation. So, and I'm not talking about in this particular example, I'm not talking about testosterone, and I'm not talking about estrogen. I am talking about leptin and ghrelin, your hunger hormones. So essentially, when you're sleep deprived, your hunger and your satiety hormones get just all out of whack. I'm sure if you guys have a poor night's sleep one night, you probably wake up and throughout the day, your appetite is going to be a little bit off. It's not the same. You might not be as hungry. You might be hungrier, or your cravings for a certain food might be a little more heightened, and that's due to these hunger hormones are signaling the way that they usually don't, if that makes sense. So, leptin, the hormone that helps you feel full, is going to go down, and then ghrelin, the one that makes you hungry, obviously goes up. So the hormone that makes you feel full is going to go down, and then the one that makes you feel hungry is going to go up. So it's not like the hunger hormone goes up a little bit, so you might get a little bit hungry. Hunger goes up, the fullness goes down, so that's ratio is a whole lot higher, since they're both kind of going in the opposite directions, if that makes sense. So less leptin and more ghrelin is going to equal to just more cravings. Specifically, at least for most people, more high calorie food, more, I'm probably going to mess this word up, palatable food, food that just tastes good, right? I mean, if you're like really really hungry, you're probably not thinking, man, I want some plain chicken and rice. You might think, man, I want some Mexican food, or I might want a pizza or a burger and fries. That affinity for that more palatable food is going to obviously go up, causing those cravings as well too. And then moving into the second thing, still kind of sticking with hormones, but let's dive into insulin. So poor sleep is obviously going to impair your insulin sensitivity, and your glucose metabolism, and all this is going to lead to insulin resistance and just poor glucose management. It's just what it boils down to. So um, if you're an individual who has, normally great sleep, you wake up and your insulin sensitivity or your fasted blood glucose, sorry, excuse me, is in like the 80s, the 90s, and then you just had a awful night of sleep. Check your fasted blood glucose. More than likely, it's going to be elevated more than normal, simply because it's just thrown off by the poor sleep. Now, Is this going to be a trend? More than likely not. I mean, most people, if you normally sleep 7, 8 hours, you're not going to go from, one end of the spectrum to, 2 or 3 hours a night very consistently. And that number will, fall back in line. Um, but the main thing is that insulin resistance is going to disrupt the body's ability to properly utilize the glucose that we're intaking for energy, but it also is going to promote fat storage as well too, particularly around the abdomen area, the stomach is just what it boils down to. That's why, I mean, you can pretty much bet the house on if you see a person who is overweight and a lot of their fat storage is around their abdomen, they look like, I've heard everything from, obviously the love handles to a spare tire around the waist kind of thing. That's insulin sensitivity. Their insulin sensitivity is very poor, which then, leads to other things like, estrogen dominance, things like that. And we won't get into that here. But again, you could probably bet the house that if they're overweight and they carry a lot of their fat storage in their stomach, they probably have very poor insulin sensitivity. Is just what it boils down to. That their body can't process glucose effectively. Um, and so, I mean, obviously, since we're talking about sleep, with sufficient sleep and restful, like meaningful sleep, these individuals, if you can get that insulin function in a good spot, that's obviously going to be ideal for you in, helping your body's ability to properly utilize those nutrients, which again will help you with fat loss. Essentially, if your fasted blood glucose is to a point to where it's just too high, then your body's ability to shed body fat just percentagely just goes way, way down. And that's why I'm always like, hey, like let's try to keep that fasted blood glucose as low as we can, simply because if it's too high, I mean, it's almost impossible for your body to burn body fat. So, just keep that in mind as well too of actually how important sleep is. If we don't get enough sleep, your insulin sensitivity is going to be thrown off, and then that in itself makes body fat just stupid hard to come off. And so, if we look at another aspect, we're talking about um, cognitive function, and this is pretty self-explanatory. If you have a poor night's sleep, your line of thinking is probably not up to par of what it normally is. This can affect things such as mood, decision making, and maybe not decision making is like I'm going to wear this shirt over this shirt kind of thing, but it's more or less like I'm going to eat this food over this food, and it comes more out of convenience, right? So if you're tired, you're probably not going to want to make your normal lunch meal, right? You might say, today I might just pick up something from the break room, or on the way to work, right? And then, obviously, kind of a lot we've talked about earlier, the lack of sleep has been linked to, increased cravings for those, higher calorie foods. Again, that affinity for more palatable food is going to go up. Um, and then, in kind of the same thing, with the leptin and ghrelin, that affinity for, more palatable foods is going to go up. And then you're tired, so your desire to work out, get steps in, all that stuff goes down. So that ratio shifts a good bit rather than just, hey, I'm craving a little something today. It's going to go up here, but instead it's twofold. It goes in, opposite direction. So again, it's kind of a 1-2 punch with a lot of these things. That ratio changes significantly on both ends. And so, pretty much of what we've talked about thus far deals with hormones and metabolism. And for the gist of it, that's kind of what it boils down to. But there is another factor that kind of ties into that, and it's your circadian rhythm. This is what everybody knows what your circadian rhythm is. And once that gets out of whack, that's your body's internal clock, right? Once it's just like if you didn't set your clock correctly, what Sunday morning, Saturday night kind of thing, and you woke up and it was an hour earlier, yeah, earlier than it was supposed to be, or later or whatever. That could potentially just throw off your whole day. So again, once that circadian rhythm, just kind of gets out of whack, that's going to be, more. It's just a lot of this stuff ties to the affinity to those, higher, palatable foods. That cognitive thinking, kind of just goes out the window. So a lot of the stuff is like intertwined together. But if you break it down into smaller pieces, it kind of makes a little more sense. And then the last thing, if we look at this stuff on a deeper level, as far as like cellular function, um, if you look at cellular function, energy production, and inflammation, a good night's rest is going to promote, um, you know, uh, less inflammation, more, a healthy, cellular turnover and function. But a sleep deprived individual, this is going to be impaired to some extent, and this is obviously not good. And kind of like we talked about, good sleep is essential for that, cellular repair, and that optimal metabolism. So if you think about it, and you probably heard this before, probably more of a mattress joke. The mattress people are like, you spend one third of your life on your mattress. Buy a good mattress, right? Well, if you think about it, if you sleep 8 hours a night, you're sleeping for one third of your life. So you need that sleep to be very impactful. Very the quality just needs to be there. Because if you're getting 8 hours, but 5 of those hours are you tossing, turning, waking up, having to go to the bathroom, just very poor sleep, then it's not a full 8 hours, and you're hindering your body's ability to recover. Just what it all boils down to. So wrapping things up, at the end of the day, obviously sleep is very important. Um, if you don't get sleep, you're not going to see the results that you want. Now, that's not to say that if you don't sleep at all, that your results are just hopeless. They're going to come, but the more sleep that you can get, and the more quality sleep that you can get, obviously that ROI is going to be better for you as well too. And I tell some people this every week: if they put like, they get 6 hours of sleep a night, or whatever. If you think about this, if you can get in bed 1 hour early, and I know that's easier said than done, but if you get in bed 1 hour early every single night, you're essentially sleeping an additional 7 hours a week, which, if you're sleeping 7, 8 hours a night, that kind of thing, you're essentially adding another day or another night of a recovery to your protocol, if that makes sense. So, now too much sleep is detrimental. I know if I sleep in past 7 o'clock, probably I'm very groggy. It's not good. That's why I normally get up at 5:30, somewhere in there. That's just kind of when my body person is just ready to get up and get things moving. So too much sleep is a bad thing. Too a little sleep is a good thing. But at the end of the day, better sleep, quality sleep will lead to more fat loss. So now, with that being said, has anybody got any questions with anything? I'm guessing all that made pretty good sense. I would assume.
The only thing I would ask is like if somebody is like for me, I typically only get like 6 hours. If you had to prioritize quality over quantity, which would you say is, I guess, one of the more important characteristics? I mean, I'm sure there's a balance there, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it more or less needs to be balanced, but I think if you can commit to, 6 hours of you like in the bed, like, hey, I'm going to commit to 6 hours a night in this bed, whether I stare at the ceiling for 6 hours or I actually sleep for 6 hours, I think you could probably mitigate a lot of that by making sure that your sleep hygiene and your sleep routine is up to par as well too, such as like make sure that the room is cold, blackout curtains, white noise, no cell phone for an hour before bed. Uh, you know, I've heard of people who like takes hot showers, then gets in bed. I'm very hot natured, so when I take my shower before I get in bed, I'll obviously take a hot shower, and then I'll cut the cold on. And and some of you may think, well, that might wake you up. Well, to me, it makes me cold, and then I want to get in bed and get warm. So, as long as I think if you have a healthy sleep routine, healthy sleep hygiene, you can make that quality of sleep match the quantity better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and then again, like a lot of people will resort to taking, all of these, sleep meds, melatonin, things like that. To me, that's the last case scenario. If you have tried all these other things first and you just cannot sleep, sure, try these things, but don't let it be a crutch to where in the back of your mind, this really could be nothing but a placebo effect. But if you, run out of your sleep med one night and you're like, oh crap, I'm not going to sleep tonight. Well, you just in that mindset of thinking that, then you're probably not going to sleep. So like I have some sleep meds in the bathroom, and if I'm restless for more than like 15 minutes, I go take some and I knock out. I don't use it every night. I use it kind of as needed. So, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anybody else got any questions about sleep, anything like that, or just questions in general, I guess?
Think you covered it, man.
Well, good. I hope you take this one to heart.
Yeah, and I'll say, for everybody else listening, me and Austin's buddies, and of course he's been my coach for several years, and started preaching this to me about 2 years ago, and I'm like, oh man, full of shit. Sleep when you die. I get called out in the middle of the night quite often, but whenever I started to take it serious, which hadn't been for about the last couple of months, totally different game changer. Um, when I can control what needs to be controlled as far as sleep, everything. My glucose went from like it was as high as 109 to this morning it was 80. So it's definitely something to it.
Yep. And that's, and that's another thing, like, a lot of people, like, if you tell me that you might, have a high fasted blood glucose that morning, I'm say, okay, cool, that's fine. How's your sleep? How much water, did you drink the day before? Was, yesterday a very high stressful day? And if you, checked all those boxes and it's still high, then sure, we might take a couple more readings, for the following days. But a lot of this stuff that's, I'm not even going to say wrong, but is not favorable can probably be boiled down to the very basics. Are you sleeping well? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting your steps in? Like all this stuff is it's so basic, and a lot of people want to run to the conclusion of, oh well, my sleep is crap, or oh, my fasted blood glucose is high. Let me get on some medication to help fix this. No, let's fix the stuff that's free, that we can fix first, and is the easiest to fix. To me, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. I mean, it's just gonna keep it covered for a little bit. It's not gonna solve anything. It might mask it for a little while, but that hole is still there. So, but and I will say, I think I get 7 hours of sleep a night. I go to sleep at 10, wake up at 5:30. Any more than that, I'm groggy, so I have to get up early. I don't like a ton of sleep, and I think Brianna just went through this as well too, having a little too much sleep, and it can affect some things too. So
Yeah, it's been a lot better since.
yeah, absolutely, I'm sure it has. Well, all right. If Chandler or Mr. James don't have anything, we will conclude for today, and we'll go from there. So, you guys got anything, or y'all good?
All good. I think you covered everything pretty good.
Cool. All right. Well, that will work. I don't think anybody put anything inside of the chat. Nope. All right. So we're good. I will talk to you guys soon, and we'll go from there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Later.